Hello. Teresa here with Spill the Tea, another episode this week. I'm super excited because I have Casey, the manifestation queen, here with me. And I cannot wait to ask her all the manifestation questions because we all want to know how to be all the things, all the things, like manifest all of our deepest, darkest, most exciting desires, right? So let me welcome Casey to the stage. Dun, 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 dun.
Teresa, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, I'm so excited for today too. Casey, just for those of you that don't know, Casey Edward is an intuitive life coach specializing in manifestation. She helps women go from anxious and stuck to empowered and abundant. Yes, so good. So just a quick little remembrance and moment. I have to shout out Alex just for bringing us into each other's path in the first place. So Alex Reed put on an event, was last October. Yeah, it was last year, right?
Yeah.
And Casey was one of the keynote speakers talking all about manifestation. And she completely rocked my world and gave me a completely different view of manifestation. And I've been studying it, reading about it, but it was like the way that Casey describes it and explains it, it made something different click for me. And so I've been dying to have her on the show. Casey, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I know. Shout out to Alex. I can't believe it's been that long since the retreat. And I'm so lucky to have connected with all of you women. And it's so good to be talking about this and to be spreading the word.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. So let's talk about, yes, you're a manifestation queen, but also tell me a little bit about your life story and how did you get here?
Yeah. So in my 20s, to sum it up, I had really bad anxiety and I exercised, I ate well, I had a good job, I had people in my life that I loved, but there was just like this off feeling that followed me around everywhere. And so my thoughts were negative and I just felt like I was crumbling inside. And I remember thinking to myself, this just can't be normal. What can I do? And so I grudgingly started a meditation practice. I say grudgingly because when you have anxiety, the last thing you want to do is sit with your thoughts in silence. And I remember something clicking. And so I started to learn about meditation. I started to learn about the mind and the brain and the emotions. And what that did was give me my power back. So instead of feeling like I was at the beck and call of my thoughts or my emotions, I got to see, oh, I am not my thoughts. I get to choose my thoughts. I get to choose my emotions. And from there, I learned that creates essentially everything going on in our world and how we perceive everything going on in our world.
Where did you go to find this out? Did you research? Did you read? Was it something you heard? How did this all of a sudden shift for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. So to begin my meditation practice, I read 10% Happier by Dan Harris. It's a fantastic book. And I liked it because he was really real. Like he was like, I don't want to do this. I'm only doing this to be better. And that my meditation practice led me to doing yoga teacher training simultaneous to life coach training. So I got certified as a life coach and we learned about quantum physics and the brain. And from there I was like, oh, I'm in.
Oh my gosh. So wait, were you practicing yoga?
I was, yes.
And then, so you became a yoga teacher at the same time as life coaching. That's taking on a lot.
And I had a full-time job and I was running. Yeah, it was
yeah. Hustler.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, and that's something that you also kind of talk about and teach about. Just in passing all the time when I see your social media, you talk about that, like this whole idea and this concept of we have to work harder to do all of these things, which is just not the truth, right? Like it's actually part of the surrender. So I guess that goes right into manifestation as well. So what would you share? What do you want to share about manifestation and how all of these things work for or against us, or what are the steps? Like, what are we supposed to do?
Well, to touch upon the hustle part, that was the part that intrigued me the most because I personally can have seasons of hustle, but I'm not someone who can go. And I tried for a really long time to fit my puzzle piece into that puzzle and it didn't work. And I was like, I know that I'm disciplined and I can work hard, but I can't do it all of the time. And so as I started to learn about manifestation and energy, and we can get into that, I realized, oh, even if I were to continue to work harder and harder and harder, there is a ceiling on that. There is a number of hours in the day. There is a number of energetic output that we can do. There must be another component. And so that's when I started to learn about the energetics of things. So yeah, I was taking physical action, but what was going on in my mind? What was going on with the energy I was putting out? I was thinking, I don't have enough. I'm not good enough. And that's where my energy was. So sure, I was doing the work and in the 3D, the third dimension, and that is fantastic. We totally have to take action. And what if I'm using my spare time to create new beliefs that make my reality even better? So instead of saying, I am broke, saying, I have money. Or instead of saying, I'm not enough, saying, I am enough. And so just these small shifts in energy, because essentially manifestation is, this is the crucial piece, I think. We're creating all the time. That's the easy part of manifestation, saying, I want this, I desire this. We're creating those desires all the time. But manifestation ultimately is a game of matching. It's matching those things. How does that happen? By being in gratitude for what we already have. So say you want more money, acknowledge the money that you have now, be grateful for that, and be in the vibration of, I have money, I'm so grateful for it. Because the universe doesn't speak in words. So if you're saying, where's the money? I don't have it, da 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 da. The universe feels that and gives you more bills, gives you more things to co-create that reality with you. So that was kind of a very general premise of all of the little nuances of manifestation. But yeah.
I love that. Well, it's true. But I think that's also why people say, or the quote is out there that says, like, what you focus on is basically what grows, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're focusing in that lack mindset and it's like, oh, I have all this and I have that and I have that in like a draining kind of way, then that's all you're going to continue to see, because that's the mirror image of what you're putting out, right? So how does that all work? How do you all of a sudden one day feel like, okay, well, I don't really have that much money, but now I need to flip that into believing and feeling and matching energy of having money? What does that feel and look like?
So it's funny because when I started to learn about affirmations, which became very popular, all of this became very popular very suddenly. And I was like, okay, so I would write down, I am a millionaire, I am rich. And immediately, because that was so far from the truth, my brain was like, error. There was no way to create an emotion around that because I couldn't even grasp what that felt like. So I quickly learned, okay, I'm going to have to bridge myself to these places. So instead of that, it was like I was alluding to, I have money. And even that felt better than I'm broke, because I was like, I do have money. And then you're like, I do have a little money. And it just like starts to make you feel better. And another example I love is because I struggled a lot with body image. And I think everyone does in some capacity. Yeah. I went from being in a place of self-loathing to trying to be like, I love my body, I'm beautiful. And instead of that, again, just saying I have a body helped me be like, I have a body. And it's like a breath of like, okay. And so using these little steps to start to build the emotions. And often what you realize is, okay, I already have the things and I haven't been letting myself focus on what I already have. I've been focusing on the lack. I've been in the vibration of lack, of not enough, like we were saying. And as you slowly start to shift out of that, you feel your energy shift. And that's the fun part. I'll never forget when I started to do these practices, I got a check in the mail for some random settlement. And I believe it was like $17.11. But I was like, oh my God, this works.
Well, they say too, like when something like that happens, to celebrate it. And yes. It's like, that I found, for me, that's really powerful, because it doesn't matter if it's a brand new client coming in. It doesn't matter if it's a check or random $10, or it could be any form of, what would be the word? I don't know, abundance, like any form of new and fresh. And it's like when you celebrate it, that automatically changes your energy in your body. So if you can feel that, that's what I always say, compare that to like, how are you going to manifest something? How do you match the energy? Well, what's the energy of that? Well, okay, well, that's a thing. I don't know the energy. Well, how does it feel to sit in that? Like if you had that, if that was yours, what does that feel like? Right. And I think that even if we just get better at imagining, maybe we'd be better at manifesting.
100%, 100%. And that's the beauty of, we can either use our minds. Like what I learned was I was allowing my mind to use me, but the mind is a tool to be used. So just as, I don't want to say just as easily. Actually, when people say just as easily as I can worry, I can imagine, that's not true, because I had anxiety for so long that my brain was built to just picture worst case scenario, create an emotion. And ultimately that's what the brain is wired to do still. After all of these thousands of years, we're still wired to look for the things that might cause danger. So we have to slowly start to shift our brain to think about best case scenario and things working out and imagine that. And then again, that shifts our energy. And the beauty of this is when people are like, what if this doesn't work? What if this isn't how things work? Which, like, it's based on quantum physics. So I'm like, well, it is, but that's fine. That's fine. But if it wasn't, the thing I love telling everyone is it's going to make you feel better, because like you were saying, I walked down the street and I could find a quarter and I'm like, oh, thanks, universe. That is so nice. I'm so abundant. And my boyfriend's like, you're so happy. And I'm like, because you get to choose to be. And so whether you think there's an outcome or not, we get to remember that happiness is a very big component of why we are all here. We get to experience happiness.
I love it. I love it so much. Okay, so one of the things you brought up, the anxiety point, and I have to talk about that just for a second, because I'm currently doing this 12-week program. Well, it's like a book, and you write 3 pages every morning when you wake up, and you spend probably about an hour. Like for me, it takes a solid hour if I really fill all the pages, because I mean, these pages are big. They're not like the little tiny journal. And what I noticed was that when I first started, and it's only been a couple weeks, so this was just not that long ago. When I first started in the morning, because I felt like I wake up and I'm immediately on the to-do list. I have so much to do. And I've got, oh my gosh, that when I sat there to do that writing, I had anxiety. And it felt like the Sunday scaries. And I've created, like, here I am doing all this work to create this life of my dreams. And I'm still sitting here like, wow, this is giving me, I can't stop, right? So how do you really overcome those feelings of anxiety when you're in it? Like what, like, yeah, you had all these things that you jumped into, but what was your coping, or how did you learn to cope with those emotions when you were in the thick of it?
Oh, that's such a good question. So I would say one of the things I started to do is be proactive about it. So I'm kind of the same way. I wake up ready to go, raring for the day, and that can sometimes be overwhelming. So I meditate first thing always. So being proactive about the things that we can stay on top of. And then also when I'm having anxiety, I just sit with it and I give myself a little time. Instead of being like, I shouldn't feel like this, I'm like, okay, this is what's going on. Is there anything, I like asking myself, is there anything here that I really need to discern or dissect? Because if there's something I want to know, and often it's like, no, there's not much going on. And so when that happens, I say, okay, so what if I didn't have anxiety right now? And this is a really big energetic shift. So again, I don't want to make this sound easy. It takes practice, because shifting out of one energetic reality that you've been in for a really long time takes practice. But what I started to realize, even when I was really in the thick of it, was what would I be doing if I didn't have anxiety? Oh, I'd be going for a walk instead of sitting here ruminating. Okay, I'm gonna go for that walk for 5 minutes. Or say you're like, I'm journaling, so I'm just gonna journal for 5 minutes. So like giving yourself like an easy way in, or an easy way out, I should say, of the anxiety, and saying, I'm just gonna do it for 5 minutes. If I feel bad, I'll come back and just sit back down and do more of whatever this is.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Being really gentle with yourself and making it easy, because I find that if you try to do something really grandiose when you're in it, it's like system overload. So just being like, I'm just going to go for a 5-minute walk. I'm going to stand up and doing anything. But yeah, asking yourself, well, if I wasn't feeling like this, what would I be doing? And just, again, using that imagination, and it really starts to help you pull out of that. And then I would say the other part is knowing that anxiety is normal in some level. Like excitement and anxiety feel very close together. And so there's like this excitement for the day to start, and then it feels like anxiety. So just witnessing like, yeah, here we are. Like not making it bigger than it needs to be. I also used to do the like doom and gloom. Oh my God, why do I feel like this? And then sometimes now I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. Yep, we're anxious this morning. Okay. And then I just go on with it.
Yeah, you like learn to lean into it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. I love that too. Okay, so when we're in these emotions, we have this anxiety, we're going through this shift, and we're trying to manifest at the same time. Obviously, that's like polar opposite, right? Yeah, so it's like you said, you have to go through these different steps to get there.
Yeah.
Now, what I've noticed is you, even right now, look, you're moving, you're constantly moving energy. And when I watch you on Instagram and I like follow all of your things, you're going on walks, you're getting moving, you're running, you're definitely, and if anybody has seen Casey, like she's ripped, like she like she has it's crazy to me that you would be thinking about your body because you've got like, she takes really good care of herself, guys. She really does. So it's like you think of all these things, but why did you start movement, or where did that come? Like, of course, you did yoga training at the same time. There's probably a lot of like really extra things that were special and magical that came from that. But were you an athlete prior to that too?
I played soccer all the way through college.
Okay, so then where did like, is that something that's just innately been in you, or was that something that you found helps move certain energies through you because of anxiety? Like, tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I hated running until after college. When you have someone telling you what to do and yelling at you, I was like, ugh. And I think where it started, honestly, but I do remember in college, my senior year, it was the only time I really could have alone time without people being like, oh, come to the bar, do this. Like if I was like, I'm going for a run, they'd be like, ah, good for you. You know, and so it was like the only time that I could get away. And I did start to realize when you move the energy, you're also with the energy. So all of this stuff comes up, but like if I go for a run, I know I'm going to be out there for 45 minutes. So I'm like, okay, what do you got for me? And I let it come up. And when I'm moving, there's something about letting it move through me and seeing it rather than like sitting with it can be very overwhelming. That's why like a walk is so beneficial. But when the energy is moving and I feel good, like I feel badass when I'm running. So whatever it is for someone else, then when that stuff comes up, I'm like, okay. Like it doesn't feel as visceral because I have something else going on for my body. And over time, I used to run because I had anxiety, and now it's really beautiful. Now I just get to run because I love it. And the story has changed, but the main principle has been that movement and moving the energy and being able to be with the energy is really powerful, because then you don't feel like you're running from something, you're with it, you're able to be with it. And when you can be with it, I think that unlocks a lot.
I love that answer so much. That's powerful. That is so powerful. I'm so glad I asked that question.
Yeah, that was a really good question.
You know, and I see you moving and doing it all the time. And it's like, I'll be on the bike. This happens to me all the time. I'll be on the bike and I'm sitting there and it's like, I'm trying to like bike all of my emotions out and I just start crying. I'm like, what the heck am I crying? You know, but it's because it's moving the energy, but I've never really understood that. But to actually sit in the energy and feel the energy while the moving, that's huge. That actually hits me even extra right now because I just experienced Cambo for the first time like 2 weeks ago.
What is that?
So it's amphibian medicine. So it's the secretion of an Amazonian frog. And what they do is they apply it on your skin, and it has biopeptides that basically go into your body, and you have this, it's a primal reaction, really. But these peptides are doing their magic and going to wherever they need to be in your body, whether it's healing anxiety and depression. There's so many different things that it addresses. But when you're in it, like there's no getting out, like you're riding the wave and it's just, you're there. And some people, you know, I did a lot of research prior because I'm one of those people that needs to know, what am I expecting? And you know, it's natural for us. Like we'll start trying to do something to control it. Or it's like, if you feel like you have to purge and you have to vomit, it's like you're trying to stop yourself. Or the opposite, you're trying to force yourself and all of a sudden you're dry heaving. Anyway, that's going off on a completely different tangent. But the point is like you're sitting there in it, you know? And that's so powerful. Like how often are we setting ourselves up in that fight or flight and that anxiety emotion to avoid it?
Yes. And I think that we're in a time where scrolling has become one of the biggest ways to avoid. So I find when I find myself starting to scroll more than usual, I will become really aware and conscious of it. And then I'll say, okay, why am I doing this? And sometimes it's boredom. Boredom is actually really great for us, but I've again, like we're in this hustle culture. So to be bored, it's like I should be doing something. I should be doing something. But boredom is where creativity comes in. And so if I find myself scrolling, I'm like, okay, I don't need to do that right now. Or if I do feel myself trying to avoid, that's when I come back, because this again comes down to realizing that emotions are happening, but we are not them. And so when they come in and they're like, oh, this is what's going on. Like I picture having a conversation with it and it's like, okay. And then just being with it and being okay with it, because it's going to happen when you're out in the real world or you're at work or you're with your kids and you have these emotions. And the beauty of it is to have it, to let it come in and to let it pass. But we're so used to feeling the discomfort and running from it or doing anything we can over it, having a drink, doing this, doing that. But the more that we just are like, I'm powerful, these emotions are here, but they don't rule me. Oh, it's just like, then you can do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you're on top of the world. Talk to me about how taking back your own power also is necessary in order to manifest.
So something that helped me a lot was when I first learned about manifestation and energy, I had this fear. And I think that this happens to a lot of people of, well, I better be in good vibes all the time. I have to be feeling good. I have to be high energy. And instead, I started to decide, oh, wait, if I am the creator of my reality and my beliefs matter, I believe that no matter how I feel, I am manifesting abundance. I am human and I'm going to have days where I'm sad. And I believe on those days, I'm just as worthy to attract new clients and to attract abundance as the days where I'm speaking on stages. And so
that's a very powerful affirmation right there.
Yes. Yeah. Like owning our humanity and knowing I'm worthy all the time, because ultimately self-worth is like a human construct from here. But knowing I'm always attracting abundance, I am always good enough. It isn't contingent upon my emotions. So like I loved stepping out of that paradigm of I have to be perfect and being like, no matter what I'm feeling, no matter what I'm doing, I am still enough. And that helped me so much.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, because there's so many times where it's like, oh, well, okay, this came up with my journaling practice, because it's like they even talk about it in, it's this process that you're kind of, it's almost like you vent on the pages. And it's called the artistic way. So the whole premise of it is at some point you get over like the limited beliefs and like the people that told you could never be an artist for whatever reason, or like put all these labels on what an artist is and isn't. So it kind of like smashed your dreams. It's like, well, no, we're all creators. We're all artists. And so then it's like over time you put these things, this magic shows up on the paper, right?
Yeah.
And it's so wild, because sometimes I'm like, man, I sure do sound like a negative Nancy on these pages. But then afterwards, it's almost like, oh, well, that gave me a way to deal with it, and now I can move on, right?
Yes.
But then it's like, if I put all these bad things down on paper, am I manifesting that now? How often do we think that? So to your point, I think that it's so powerful for us to remember that we are humans. This is our human experience, and we can still be worthy and still have that spiritual connection and abundance on its way to us at all times. I think that's just, thank you for saying that. I think we all need that reminder.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then on the day where you're like, I really want to watch Netflix, but I should be doing this. For me at least, the more I got rid of guilt and shame around what I needed, the better I felt. And so instead of guilting myself from my ego to work, I check in with, is this truly what I feel called to do? And I will say this is helpful to do on the other side of instilling the new beliefs. So now that I do believe these things about abundance, or that I'm healthy, or that I can eat whatever I want, like there are all of these beliefs that I got to instill on the other side, then you can operate from soul rather than mind. And that's like, at first it's really weird because it's like so calm.
Yeah.
and like almost boring. But then you're acting from the place of the heart. You're acting from the place of the inner knowing. And I think that that is something that the world needs rather than so much cerebral thought and chatter. At least I needed that.
Yeah. Tell me what that's like for you. So when you went through, I mean, any of your transitions or shifts,
Mm.
like when you were really digging in to find that peace within yourself and listening to that soul, like there's a lot of times where sometimes we're trying to listen to the soul, but everything in our real world is kind of, it's too loud, right?
Yeah.
We have to like withdraw, we have to do certain things, like there's certain actions we have to take. Like
Mhm.
what did that look like, or how did that come up for you in that?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. Yeah. So I gave myself as much space and rest as I needed. So for me, it was a lot of nervous system healing. My nervous system had been on for a very long time. And I realized if I was going to recreate beliefs and tap into peace, I had to let my physical body do so as well. And so when I slowed down and when I was in that, it was so obvious to see the contrast between peace and a belief that wasn't serving me. So I'd be feeling peaceful. I'm letting myself have a relaxing day. And I go to eat a cookie and I start feeling, and I'm like, okay, what is this? Food was a really good one for me, is a really good one for me to say, because I think a lot of people have food labels and things. But so then I'd say, okay, I'm having anxiety because I shouldn't be eating a cookie at 2 p.m. And then I was like, is that true? I don't want that to be true. I believe that I'm going to eat this cookie and it's going to make me so joyful and that's going to put me in a great mood. And I am just going to, and so I would do that. I would just slow down enough to really get intimate with what is going on in here. What is the underlying, because we hear about the subconscious a lot, and I've done hypnotherapy and I've done all of the deep subconscious things that you can do, and it's super helpful. And after I had the same thoughts I was always having. So that's powerful. And it didn't change my mind. It didn't change my brain. It was all the same in here. So I had an experience, I got to the root of it. And then I still got to practice every moment. Well, what am I going to believe about this thing? So it's just acknowledging the thing that's making you feel bad and saying, I don't want to believe that. I want to believe that I can eat whatever I want and it's going to be joyful and it's going to fulfill me and I'm going to move on, or whatever it may be. But that was the one that I've really
Now, did you have to go through and like debunk these things? Like who told me this and where did I adopt this belief?
I did. And I've thought a lot about whether we have to do that or not. And I think it comes down to the person, because there are other things in my life that I started to get to the bottom of. And I realized it was something I didn't want to get to the bottom of. And I was like, you know what? Again, it comes back to the belief. I was like, I actually really do think that as long as every moment where I see that come up, I change it, I'm going to be just fine. And that was true. And so I think that like sometime you'll know, like, do I want to know where this came from? No, I don't feel like doing that right now. I just feel like making a new belief, and it's going to be different for everyone. There were some things that I want to get to the bottom of, but I also think that being present enough to just say, this is the belief coming up in this moment. I would rather be feeling this belief, and doing that over and over and over can be just as powerful.
Yeah, that's amazing. Cause I wonder if now I'm really going to be thinking about that and all
Yeah.
of my decisions and everything that I'm doing, because I have always been that type A, like, tell me everything, I want to understand, explain,
Yeah.
explain, explain. And then it's like, but why? Why did I need to know that?
Mm.
Like, why couldn't I just trust it? Why can't I just try it? Why couldn't I implement it?
Yeah.
You know? But
Yeah.
it's much easier than trying to unpack all of this baggage if you can just change your belief.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's no longer like, why isn't, because it's no longer serving me, a good enough reason?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I think that I do think we'll know. I do think you will know, is this something I want to get to the bottom of? And there have been things where I'm like, oh, I'm glad I unpacked that. Like when I did start having really bad anxiety, I would sit with it and say, what is this? And that was really good, because I'd recognized that over time, there were energies that I would take on that weren't mine. So if you're growing up in a really chaotic household or whatever it may be, you've taken on a lot of stuff that isn't yours. So for me to know that, that was helpful. But for some other things in my life that were really painful, I could tell getting to the bottom of it would be too much. And I was like, you know what? I am going to not do that.
Yeah.
And I am just going to change the belief. So being like, do I want to know? Do I want to get to the bottom of this? Or do I feel that I can just move on? So I think just playing with that. And ultimately, again, it comes back to knowing either way, I believe that what I decide about this is going to work for me because I believe that.
Yeah. So do you think that manifestation is just a decision?
Let me think about that before I answer.
Yeah.
Yes. And I really do think that it's tapping into the magic that, like, that's the word that just came through for me. So tapping into the magic. And what I mean by that is being so present in every moment and being so deeply grateful for what is. So like, I'm just looking out the window and I'm looking at this willow tree and it's blowing in the breeze and it's giving me the feels. And that, like, this deliciousness of life. So it's like a decision, and it's coming back to who we already were and coming back to the magic that's always been there. It's like doing away with all the superfluous things that we said had to be done, or we had to think, or we had to do, and being like, the magic's already there. So yeah, I think it is a decision. I think it's a decision and it's a knowing.
Yeah. So how do you think that plays into the emotion that we attach when we feel shame, or like we almost feel guilty for wanting or desiring, especially material items?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I would say knowing why you want it is so important. So I want a new dress because it's going to make me feel really good at my sister's rehearsal dinner. That's going to be so fun. It makes you feel good. Like, you can tap into the emotion of why you want it. It's fun. I'm human. I get to have these desires. I get to be here and experience. It's a very different vibration than I need that money to be good enough. I need that money to pay my bills, which might be true. But if you're in that, it's such a different feeling. So knowing that desires are sacred, as people say, we're human, we're going to have desires, and being in joy about it. If you feel like you need something to be whole, that's when it's like, okay, this is like, I feel like I'm pretty simple, and like, I'm going to have a Range Rover one day. And like, I know that the ring I want when I get proposed to is very large. Like, and my boyfriend knows that too. And it's like, these are the desires we get to have because it feels fun. Like, he also knows if he proposed with a seashell, I'd be like, of course. Like, it's not dependent on my happiness. It's just a thing that would spark even more joy.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So okay, what are the main things, underlying things that you need to really pay attention to? Like, I don't know. It comes back to me. There must be a limited belief I have around this, because I just keep coming back to, like, what if I can't justify why I need or want something? You know? And it's not even so much justifying it. It's like, what, I have a limited belief or some type of conditioning. Does that make me greedy? Does that make me, you know what I mean? Like, what kind of work do you do to like get rid of that?
So we would start with, like, is it true that you have to justify what you desire? Excuse me. Is it indefinitely true that you have to justify?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
No, it's like, no, I don't think so. I think that's conditioning. It's like you feel like you have to because for whatever reason, and somewhere along the lines, it was like, that's too much, or that's, it's like, again, it goes into these limited beliefs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm super attached to this right now. I didn't even think this would come up, but it's kind of funny as we talk through it, how it is.
I love that. It's time to heal it. That's why it's coming up. It's like, get rid of me. I want some more things. Oh, okay. So the first thing is saying to the brain, is that true? And how I picture the brain when you ask that is like, it's like, no. Like, the gig's up. It's like, no. So then you say, what could be true? Again, just like opening the realm of imagination and possibility. It could be true that it's easy and acceptable to have what I desire. It could be. Do you feel that it could be true for it to be acceptable to have what you desire?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. So now can you feel that in your body? The prospect of it being okay to have what you desire?
Yep.
Okay. Do you feel like it could be really exciting and really fun to get what you desire?
It's definitely exciting and fun.
Okay. So what would a better belief be around this? So instead of it's too much, I feel guilty, what is something that feels good for you?
I mean, it would be exciting. It'd be fun. It would be adventurous. It would, I mean, just like you said earlier, it would spark joy because it would bring in opportunities. It would bring in new opportunities in a different way.
So something along the lines of, and you can play with if this feels good, I am open to receiving what I desire because it feels fun, exciting, and adventurous.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That is going to be the thing that you start to think of. Like you put a Post-it note in your car, you write it down every morning. And this is where you bring it into your body. So like anyone could think something, but like we could do it together, but it feels fun to say for anyone. But if you want to like close your eyes and just like drop into your body.
Oh, let's do it.
Okay. And then you can just repeat after me if that feels good. I am open.
I am open
to receiving what I desire.
To receiving what I desire.
Because it is fun, exciting, and adventurous.
Because it is fun, exciting, and adventurous. I know, I was already, I'm like, yes. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So you just do that every day.
And the unsexy part is, Teresa, and it's true. You're gonna in 3 hours think it's too much for me to want that. You're gonna go right. You're gonna go back. It's human. That's what you've been thinking. And in that moment, you are simply going to decide what we just decided instead and bring that feeling in. It is literally just a decision in the moment, simplifying, choosing something else, letting that be true over and over and over, because a belief is ultimately a thought we keep thinking. And the more that we think it and pair it with that emotion, again, like the beauty of this is it comes back to, even if this wasn't how things worked, if someone was like, I think that's bull, I don't think that's how manifestation works, I'd be like, but did you have fun? But did you feel so good? And it's like, yeah, I did.
That's so funny because that's exactly, I'm sitting here like, I don't even need to ask you how or why you became a manifestation coach because this is so fun. You know, like just having this conversation and being able to kind of walk through this with your clients, I'm sure is magical. Because
yes.
You get to also see and feel their excitement and their joy and like those things that for whatever reason have been pushed under the rug come to life, right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me, you went through life coaching, you went through yoga teacher training, and then you became, how did you become a manifestation coach specifically? Like, where did that come from? How was that born?
I think
that this visceral reaction we just had together.
Yeah, I think that it was on my path because anxiety is really disempowering. It's like, and to be honest, I would go into victim mode a lot. Like looking back, I'd be like, why is this happening? Woe is me. I didn't realize that I could step in and alter what I was feeling or thinking or thus creating. And so as I started to practice, I will tell you, I still can manifest a primo parking spot like it's no one's business, because that's the first thing I started with. Like I just started to be like, okay, when I taught yoga, there was one spot in the busy heart of Boston and it was one spot outside my studio. I got that almost every time. And if it wasn't that one, it was one like right next to the studio. But so it's just like, pick something that you can practice with, like a free cup of coffee, bring it into your awareness, have it, and then like practice with things you're not attached to. Like if you're going to start, don't be like, okay, my soulmate's going to come in tomorrow and have all this attachment. But I think that the thing that really got me into wanting to coach it is seeing that it worked. Like seeing that it worked. And I do want to put out like a disclaimer. as I started to do this, I got really intimate with my desires and my life shifted a lot. So your life might change and it might be challenging at times because as you start to become different versions of yourself who rise to meet the desires, things change. But yeah, I just wanted to start telling people about it because I'm like, well, damn, if I can get a free coffee and a great parking spot and who else, like, who knows what else, anyone can.
Yeah. I love it. I love it so much. I mean, and there's just so much joy in it because it's happy. It's like focusing on good.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
that's really the premise. It's like even if it's just a parking spot, it's a parking spot, and it brings you joy. And it goes back to having gratitude every single day for these things. That's exactly what you started with in this whole conversation.
And one other word that I think about a lot is ease. It gets to be far easier than we make it. And so a parking spot's a great example. I know I'm going to pull up and there's going to be a great spot. I'm not going to have to walk in my heels. Or I know that like the partner is out there. Like if someone's looking for a partner, I know that they're out there. And so there will be times where it's challenging to like, again, assimilate to the new reality, but just letting it be easier, way easier than we're making it.
Why do we do this to ourselves?
The real answer is science. It's because our mind is not used to not having us be on the prowl for danger. And since there's nothing, it's like, well, what do they think of me? That's like the new one. Or like, well, what if this doesn't happen? What if there's a bill? Like, it's just like the brain has evolved to all of these things to look out for us. But eventually you're like, I don't need that. My intuition is never going to make me feel fear. That is my mind. I'm not going to choose that. But yeah.
That's big. My intuition is never going to make me feel fear. That's my mind.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah. It's really reassuring. Like it'll sometimes push you and you're going to be like, no. And it's like, well, you said you wanted that. So you're going to have to do that. I'd like have full conversations with her. Like, you're like a little nudge and you're just like
part of the ascension. Okay,
yes.
Tell me what was one of the hardest, like give me an example. What was something that was difficult for you to rise to meet? What did that look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, the biggest one that comes to mind was when I moved to Colorado, I traveled across the country with a partner and we moved in together. And as I started to do the work, I was like, oh boy, this is no longer a match for either of us. And so to be dating someone for 4 years and move across the country with them and know no one in Colorado. And at the very beginning of COVID say, this isn't working. That is like, so, and just to like witness knowing what I wanted and knowing this wasn't it and being like, I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry a lot and I'm going to have to find my own apartment and I'm going to have to make friends out here. I'm going to have to figure it out. And that challenge sounds so much better than settling. So that would probably be the biggest one. And then shortly after I did the process of like feeling all the things and everything, I met the partner that I'm with now and I live with him and he's everything I could have asked for and more. And it did work out.
Yeah. Wow. So in the thick of it, were you feeling like, I mean, was that, obviously it was scary. I feel like that's a silly question, but how did that fear rise up for you? Or how were you able to compartmentalize the fear and the anxiety of what came with that decision? Or was it just inaction?
I think that this goes for anyone, especially entrepreneurs. I really just could feel the opportunity of something better. And that drove me. Like I knew, I'll never forget, I was coming home. I knew I was going home to an empty apartment. Her stuff was going to be gone. Everything was going to be gone. And I prepared for that. I said, I'm going to be crying today. And this is going to be really challenging. And this is right. So this is going to be hard, but I'm choosing this hard. And something in that decision, like knowing that you're deciding, that makes all of the difference. And again, like instead of like, oh, why is this happening? Why couldn't it have worked out? Being like, I am deciding this. And I am ready to face all of the emotions that come with it because I can feel what's on the other side of it. And sure enough. So just like, I think owning tough decisions
Yeah.
is really what has helped me when having to do that. Like, I'm owning that this is tough. And I'm still doing it.
You're so real with yourself that I love it. I think that that's probably why you're an amazing coach too, because you're probably the real voice of reason for your clients and for people like me that are just like, wait, but this, and you're like, okay, well, what's the real, like, what are you choosing? What are you giving up? What are the variables you're really working with? And
Yeah.
that is so empowering, but also like good for you for being that. And have you always had that personality?
I think somewhere deep down, yes. And I think that we all do. And the mantra that I've been having lately that's helped me a lot is I know, just period. Like when I get overwhelmed in my business because we are hit with 9,000 ideas all the time, or I'm feeling a pivot and I'm like, oh my God, instead of giving into that, I will just like go for the run and say, I know what I'm doing. I know. And it just keeps like, I just hone in and I focus on the fact that I know. And I think that we all have that knowledge. So I think we all have that deep down, the ability to tap into our knowledge, to tap into our intuition, and then to start utilizing that. So yeah, I think I have it. And I think you have it. And I think anyone listening has it too.
Okay, so what do you have to say to the people that don't want to listen to it? Because there's a big majority that don't, right? That
Yeah.
you'd rather just not know, not deal with it, not be mindful, just like, I'm just going to keep going, autopilot through.
Yeah, I would say if you're happy, honestly, this is might sound silly to people, but I'm like, if you're happy and it's working for you, do whatever. Like if you're being kind to people, if you're doing no harm, and if like my boyfriend's not super into this, he'll like check in with his gut and stuff, but he's very like 3D planner, like all of that stuff, and it works for him. So I'm like, heck yeah, you do that. I'll be floating around in meditation, and we'll meet in the middle.
I mean, that's good. You guys have to meet where you're at.
Yeah. But for anyone who is like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Okay. Like you don't have to do that. But on the other side of the ego keeping you safe in that I'm not going to do that is like a world that like sometimes I'm just like, how is this my life? And that's what's on the other side of the stubbornness of the persona of no, like I like how I do things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you don't know what you need to be freed from until you're actually freed from it.
Yo, yes.
He's like, yeah, you want to control. And then it's like, woo, let go. And then you're flying.
Yeah.
It's totally different. I love it. Oh my gosh, what an amazing conversation. How can people find you? What are you doing? What's the best way to find you? What are your offers? Tell me what's going on.
Yeah. So Instagram is probably the best. My handle is at Casey_Edward_, lots of underscores. And then I have a podcast called I Can't Wait to Tell You. That might be going on a summer break because I am traveling a lot this summer, which is fun. So we'll see if I record while I'm gone.
Yeah.
But so my offerings are life coaching packages in different containers for like different monthly stints, or I also do intuitive readings. So that's a little more psychic and magical and fun. If you need like a one-off, that would be for you. But if you want something ongoing, which is for the person who is just starting to get into their beliefs and needs someone to be like, that can be true, that abundance is there for you, like to hold you and to really lock you into those beliefs, that's the coaching.
I love that. What does that look like as far as, being in a container like that for your new clients coming in? Is it a group session? Is it one-on-one? What are you really doing these days?
It's one-on-one. And I've always done one-on-one just because I find that, and this could always change, but for that, you have to really hone in for yourself. And sometimes that's going to take a while. So like, you might not know, this is the other part. You might not know the belief that's limiting you. Mm-hmm. Like you were able to just tap in pretty quickly. Some people are like, I have no idea why I'm so broke and I'm always broke. And so to get to the bottom of that sometimes is very personal. So I do like doing those kinds of sessions. And sometimes there's like so much that comes through that like to have that intimate time to do that is a little more powerful. So that's how that works. Yeah. One-on-one on Zoom, face-to-face.
I love it. Okay. So it's at Casey_Edward_.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. I'll make sure I also put it in the notes and all of the things. And thank you so much. This was so awesome.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you. And I just want to say that your energy is also like, I'm like bouncing around because you're also just like a beam of sunshine. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. No, the second that you like logged in, I was like, yes, I've been waiting for this day. Yes. And it's such a blessing to cross paths and like know you in real life too, not just in virtual.
Yes.
Yes. And to be so close. So we definitely have to get together.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Teresa.
Thank you so much, Casey. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Okay.